Real Engines. In this movie, it shows us the eras of different, or this movie shows all the eras of the portrayal of Native Americans. Here is 1894, where they did Thomas Edison actually made his film, the silent film, Laguna Dances. They did a bunch of ceremonies, and this is actually the very first kind of film that has actual natives in it. Another one is in the 1930s, this movie called The Silent Enemy. It had Native Americans in it, but it showed where the disappearance of Native Americans, or their disappearance in the movie. Timeline. 1940 to 1970. There was popular eras, then Fort Apache, the Far Horizons, the hippie era, and Billy Jack. John Wayne had a lot of movies. He was the amazing cowboy in every movie. The Far Horizons had a lady who, she was a white lady who played a Native American woman. The 60s was the era they showed on the movie, Real Engines in Hollywood. They showed how hippies were trying to how would you say it? They were praising the Native Americans in a way that they thought was respectful, but in reality, it was still being misused. And then you have Billy Jack, who was showed Native Americans as an action hero. Like, they started becoming more action hero type. In the 90s, the 80s the Westerns went out of style. And then some of the Indians were actually being played in some of the 80s movies. In here, what I'm showing you is Dances with the Wolves and Smoke Signals. This became a very popular thing in the 90s. It started out with Dances with Wolves. It's mainly about a white guy, but it actually had Native Americans in usual appropriation of the Native American language. Smoke Signals just showed a typical day in the res and how natives were on the reservations and just Native American life made with Native American actors. And present day, now in movies, you'll see how it went from the colonizers playing Indians in movies and painting themselves representing different types of gear. How would you say it? Like, showing that we use work bonnets and we have beaded headbands and just we're savages, we're not smart, we're just wild, non-tamed Indians or Native Americans, which showed in all these movies and films until present day, where now, like this movie, or this show actually, that's on Hulu, it's called Reservation Dogs. It's actually directed and played by Native people. It's all deals with Native Americans. Like it's the show shows laughter, the seriousness of Native suicides, you know, Native American just life in general, and how young teens of Native American look at life. It's a really good show, and I would, how you say it, would approve of this show, and you should watch it sometimes if you haven't. That's the end of my presentation. So, I had more on my paper, and it's about in one of the parts of the camps, a summary of the camp. I didn't like it. It was doing too much for me, and just seemed so disrespectful, and they didn't understand what was going on and how things were with actual Native Americans, and not one kid in that camp was Native American. So with that, I didn't like it. But I'm Janelle Burgess, and this was my presentation. Thank you.